Yeah.
Sweet.
I can hear you.
All
Hi.
right. Hi, guys.
Hi, Michael.
So nice to, I feel like we ran into each other somewhere downtown or like Little Fleet or something like that over the years, but
That's
nice to maybe formally meet you.
I feel like I know you already, so.
Aw. That's okay. We'll be best friends. I'm okay with that.
Already are. And thank you, everybody.
What's that?
Thank you, everybody, for being here. This is so cool.
For sure. Yeah. Thanks for hanging out with us. For those that haven't been here before, and I see a number of new faces or names. I see a lot of non-faces. So the way that we tend to handle this thing is if you are so inclined and you want to like pay attention, you're welcome to go up to the top right and click on like the gallery view and see kind of like the whole cluster of people here. We tend to start out a little bit social and then dig into the interview process of this, or interview portion of this. And the social part I find to be much more social if you can see everybody's face instead of just the Michael Kent show, because it's not cute.
Where's your shaved head?
What's that?
Shaved head.
I have a huge head?
Oh, I said, where's your shaved head?
Oh, no. I do have a huge head. I just found, we have a 5-month-old, a first baby, and we had a checkup right before lockdown, and he's in like the 45th percentile on body mass and 94th on head mass.
No way.
Ken boys come in with big heads. I can't, like, double XL hats don't generally fit me. So I usually like get the Patagonias and go all the way to the last buckle and then like really stretch them out to make them fit. I did not bring you and I didn't bring Mia on, but what's up, Mia? You don't know that you're this way, but you're right here. High five.
Yeah.
Yes, that worked. I complain about this on every single episode of this, but I want Zoom to do a checkbox that lets me like pre-order like where everybody is, or at least like make it the same for everybody so that we can do like high fives and be like, hey, you talk and you talk. There's nobody up here, but you talk. It's a complaint. But I didn't bring you guys on for this specifically, but I did end the last one asking if I should shave my head, unrelated, before we had even talked, and I got like raging no's.
What?
Like, do not. I'm still seeing some heads no. I go through like feast and famine on this, where like my hair in college was like down to my waist, and then I just like rum and cider one night, just gone. I did go through a 90s parted in the middle, like 5 minutes just for some pictures, but that's what you have to do with the long hair, I think. All right, so yeah, if you oh, we got some more people come in. We usually tend to hang around for about 10 minutes and let people kind of filter in. With this quantity of people, I'd still love to have everybody kind of introduce themselves so we can feel like we know each other. If you're not on video, you're not required to introduce yourself. But when I call your name, if you unmute yourself, I will assume that means that you want to say hi. And if you don't, that's fine. I would recommend everybody drop your Instagram or some sort of social media handle down in the chat so that when I finish with this, I will make a point of putting the show notes together and putting everybody's handles in there so we can all get to know each other, follow each other's work, and all that good stuff.
You were going to make us do that, weren't you? Since I changed my name, I got to figure it out.
Oh, it's super. It's just the name. What is it? Masters Touch Seniors or whatever it was. That's your new handle. It's Instagram.com/whatever that is. Super easy. Hi, Kayla. Okay, cool. So you don't know where you're sitting on my grid, but I'm going to call your name, and if you are so inclined to say hey, what up? Say hey, what up, and where you are based and what you do. And what you do doesn't have to be defined by how you make monies. So, hey, Mia, you're right here. You probably know that.
Like, you're down there for me.
No, I am right here.
Okay, so just say a little something.
Who you are, where you be, what you do.
Hi everyone, I'm Mia. I be in Traverse City, Michigan, and I am a videographer. Yeah.
Wonderful. What do you specialize in, Mia? I know we've talked a little bit, but we've been meaning to grab coffee for like what feels like 40 years.
That's true. Do you want to have coffee in front of 50 people?
Yeah.
No.
You guys, everybody just turn off your cameras. We're going to hang out for 40 minutes, Mia and I.
Well, I am mostly doing like, I guess, commercial and narrative videography. I like to do a lot of real life as my subject matter, and I'm figuring out different ways that kind of take shape. So that is
Cool.
really vague, but
No, but I love it. I love it. You don't want to narrow yourself down too rapidly, I believe. That's just my take. All right, Sarah Shade. Hello.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm in Traverse City. So I'm a photographer, mostly engagement, family sessions, things like that. Trying to get into more weddings. Oh, thank you for the puppy compliment. There's one. There's another back there too. She's black, so she kind of blends in with the couch, but lots of dog photography as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's about it.
Wonderful. Shauna, what's up?
Hi, everybody. I recently changed my Instagram name, so I'm having a hard time remembering what it is. But I'm the Master's Touch Photography, and I shoot everything but babies, but my primary is seniors. And I'm in Holly.
Holly, Michigan. Cool.
Yep.
I believe it's Felipe or just Philip.
Do you hear me?
Yes.
It's me, Philip, from Switzerland, Lake Geneva.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I saw it on the Instagram of Jessie that you do a Zoom, and I thought I come and join the party.
Love it.
And I'm sailing quite a lot, and this is my interest here.
Beautiful, beautiful. So, what's the weather like where you are right now? Is it? I don't know.
Rainy,
warm? Is it cold right
20
now?
degrees Celsius, and the next few days it's going to be sunny and good weather for sailing.
Beautiful, beautiful. Have you ever been to Northern Michigan?
No, never. No, I was
Well,
born in the States, but I'm a foreigner.
Gotcha. Well, we have some beautiful water. I don't know how it compares to Lake Geneva, but it's stunning up here.
Ah, beautiful.
You're of course welcome to come hang out with us after lockdown.
Thank you.
All right, Negley, what's up, man? Can't hear you.
Okay. I
There
am
you
a portrait photographer in Northwest Ohio, and I love to travel. So I would like to change my niche or whatever into like elopement photography, and that's kind of hard to get into unless you start shooting them for free, and I can't really afford that right now. So
That is exactly the problem with that. Well, Jessie, we're gonna dig on you pretty hard at the later on, but why don't you just give us like the really fast overview of who you are, what you do?
Hi, everybody. I'm Jessie. Thanks for being here. Currently sitting on my father's porch, poaching his internet because I've had problems with mine for the last few days, but I'm up in Northport, Michigan, about 45 minutes north of Traverse City at the very end of the road. And my understanding is that we're going to chat today a little bit about a split life that I live, half of it on land and half of it at sea. Cool to see some sailors and photographers here.
For sure.
I've spent the majority of my adulthood bouncing between either a sailboat and or photographing something, someone. So my season's kind of split from May through October here in Michigan for weddings, families, portraits, you name it. Any kind of portraits, I'm yours. And then my winters have been some kind of sailing excursion for, gosh, I guess the last 7 years now.
Wow.
Yeah, I'll let you guys dig into that with your questions
For sure.
shortly. There's lots to be said. So thanks again for being here. Really, really nice to meet you guys.
All right, Kayla, you jumped around on us. You jumped the queue. You want to say hi?
Yeah, so I'm Kayla. I'm in Traverse City, and I am a photographer at Haggerty, like a company in Traverse City. And so I do lifestyle photography, and then I do weddings on the side, and yeah.
For those that don't know, Haggerty is one of our major employers up here, but they're also one of the biggest insurers of like vintage boats and cars in the world. So they're all over the country, all over the world. But their headquarters is based in Traverse City. So they're an incredible company to get mixed in with. And unrelated to Mia.
Related.
No, related. That was my grandparents started it.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I was like, that's a huge coincidence. It's not. It is 0% a coincidence.
And I was excited to hear Jessie talk. So yeah.
Wonderful. What's up, Cameron?
We wouldn't insure our boat to cross the ocean. I think they wanted it to be sitting in the garage instead.
Probably.
That makes sense. Maybe we can fix that by the end of this.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, Cameron.
Hello.
What's up,
How
bud?
you doing?
Good.
That's good. So my name is Cameron. I am from Cadillac, and I do photography and videography. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Cool. Christian.
Hey, I'm Christian. I'm based in Charlotte, North Carolina. Not a full-time photographer. Shoot everything from weddings, elopements, lifestyle, commercial type stuff. So pretty much it.
Cool. All right. Kate, I don't know who you are. I don't know if you're wanting to say hi. If I don't hear from you in like the end of this sentence, then I'll just move on and not make you feel pressured. Oh, hi, Kate.
Hi. I'm making breakfast right now because I'm in California, so I didn't want to have all the noise in the background. But
Totally. No worries. We appreciate that.
I'm Katie, and I live in June Lake, California. And I work at a brewery, but I'm here because I have grown up with Jessie, and we did a couple sailing trips together, and thought I'd just be here to heckle, you know?
What a
Love
nice.
it. Love it. I mean, we've talked about this a lot, but like half the reason that we're here, half the reason these exist. I mean, I do believe these will exist after lockdown, but community is so important right now. And so whether you have interest in sailing, or whether you have interest in photography, creativity, or just in this case, Jessie, we're happy to have you. I mean, let's, the more the merrier, the more human connection we can make in this time, I think is really important. All right, James, you want to say hi? Oh, I will read your chat. Hi, I'm James. Stockbridge, Michigan, photographer, started Digital Crumbs Photography back in 2016. Learned so much and look forward to learning more. Beautiful. Maggie Smith, you interested?
Come on.
Sorry, I'm playing
No worries.
Monopoly on my Nintendo Switch. As you can see, Katie and I are sisters.
Oh, awesome.
On my screen, we're next to each other. So
You're next to each other on my screen as well.
that's so funny. So we just, saw Jessie was doing this Zoom live thing, and Katie didn't know how to use Zoom, so I signed on for moral support.
Love it.
Thanks, Mag. Heckle me all you want.
Oh, yeah.
Cool. Hey, Grace, you interested?
Hello. Can you hear me?
Hello.
Grace?
I can hear you.
Hi, my name is Grace. I am currently in Detroit and very delicately eating a salad, so I'm
Love it.
hiding for the rest of this. But
That's cool. We have a mute function for a reason, right?
yeah. But I am a sailboat captain, and that all kind of started because I was inspired by Katie and Jessie. Did the Great Loop a couple years ago with my best friend, and then decided to start working in the industry. So I'm supposed to be in the Caribbean right now teaching sailing, and that kind of got closed down for now. And then planning to maybe be in Traverse City this summer. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But doing sailboat stuff. So here to hang
For
out.
sure.
Yeah,
Well, I'm glad to know that we're not the only industry that is seeing like everything completely upended. It's really easy as a group of photographers to get together and oh, woe is me, photography is over. I mean, obviously it's not. And I don't wish that on any other industry, of course, but it is nice to know that we're all kind of like in this trash together.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I see Elizabeth. You want to say hi? But I think that's a no. Cool. Pat? Oh, Pat, you want to say hi? Oh, Pat says both amateur photographer and sailor based in Brandbridge Island, Washington. Can't chat. Cool. No worries. All right, everybody. If no, I was low key trying to get the live stream going again, but it is not going to work. So I'm going to turn that back off. So the way this works from here on out is I am going to essentially mute everybody, and well, I guess. Oh, Hannah, what? Where? There you are. Wow, this thing jumps around. I did not mean to skip you. Hi, Hannah.
It's okay.
Come say hi.
Hi, I'm Hannah. I live in Traverse City. I'm currently right now in the process of trying to make photography my full-time business. So I'm using quarantine as like a time to rebrand everything and like figure my life out. But I really like taking pictures of people, and I really like doing like seniors and engagements and things like that. So hopefully that's what I'll end up doing. I'm really excited about this Zoom call because Jessie's basically living like my dream life. So I'm obsessed with the ocean and sailing and swimming and everything. And so this is like, if I could live like a dream life, it would be what she's doing. So I'm super excited for this one. But that's it. I have nothing else to say.
Amazing. Well, I was gonna say something, and then I realized it was like a horrible pun, but I'm gonna say it anyway. I realized that living in northern Michigan, I completely missed the boat on like the whole boating culture up here. I grew up like on 10th Street, which for those that don't know the geography here is 10 blocks from the biggest body of fresh water in this part of the world. And I just never had a boat, didn't have friends who had a boat. And so Jessie and I were talking when we first talked about doing this, and I did a constellation cruise with the Inland Seas group up here. It's like a sailing education organization, and I like loved it. It was amazing. Like two of the things that I love the most is like being out in nature and looking up at the stars, and to get both of those was incredible. I obviously brought my camera, took some pictures, and I now feel the same thing, except I am also terrified of being in the middle of the ocean by myself with not knowing where I am. I'm not Moana. I can't like find stars and find where I'm going. But yeah, I definitely need to figure out a way to get on a boat this summer, as long as we're legally allowed to. So sorry that I skipped you, Hannah. Okay, so what's going to go on from here is I'm going to mute everybody except for the two of us, and that will essentially just allow the software to grab both of us back and forth so that it creates kind of like a fluid interview style. That is not to say you guys are all like shut out. If you have a question, you are of course welcome to like throw it in the chat, like keep that chat going. You are also welcome to unmute yourself if you want to like interject. I mean, don't just interject like a 45-minute diatribe about I don't know, hamsters or something. If it like is apropos to the discussion we're having, of course interject, and we'll go from there. And at the end, we'll open this back up to like kind of group questions and kind of a more social thing. Sound good? Sounds good. All right, so muting all. Goodbye, everybody. Unmute Jessica. All right. I think it grabbed you automatically.
How do I make it just you and me?
If you click on the top right, are you on a computer or a laptop or a phone?
Computer, laptop.
There on the top right, next to like so you're on the grid view. Just click on speaker view.
Speaker view. Aha. Gotcha.
And it should just be us. And then you should still see like a row of people at the top, and you can kind of like scroll through people as necessary, or as requested. So I am going to quickly post in Photo Club that the live stream is totally broken. I've tried like 4 times to get it to work, and it has only worked once. It was great though. Broken, come hang on Zoom. That's the full post. All right, now we're staying focused. We're getting rid of technology. We're just going to be human beings here. For everybody that's listening, if you came in late and did not get a chance to, drop your Instagram, Facebook, whatever social handles in the chat below, and we will kind of make sure everybody gets coordinated and kind of hang out with each other after the fact. Cool. All right, I'm now here present as an interviewer, not going to be distracted by technology. What's up, Jessie?
What's up, Michael?
It's nice to finally meet you in real life. Here,
Good.
this is an illegal handshake. Thank you so much for doing this. You're actually, I don't know if we mentioned this, but we started these. This is like our 15th call or something like that. And the early ones were just like that first part. They were just the social grid. They were just people hanging out, people stressed about, lockdown, quarantine was starting, and then we kind of came up with this concept of interviewing people doing interesting things and kind of like how they're coping with this process. But I think formally you're the first person that like isn't technically like in my friend group. So this is very interesting to me because everything else I've been able to like lean back on the like, hey, you remember that time we did that thing that was super dangerous and is fascinating? Let's talk about that. So I'll be really curious to see how my interview skills stack up with, hi, nice to meet you. Let's interviewing.
Well, in return, thank you so much for having me. I was really, really stoked when you reached out. It's a fun thing to do right now. And like you said, the whole goal is just to feel some kind of community right now that we're all a little bit missing. I know a lot of photographers are struggling right now, and sailors are struggling right now. No one can
do humans
passion projects. So it feels really good to just talk about and to share. And I can talk about it for days. So I'll try to most of your questions. Have to get me back on track if I get sidetracked. And we got Katie and Maggie here to validify my answers if I say anything correctly, because they know.
Call her out if she's just like straight lying. For a little bit of housekeeping, I'm trying to keep these to like a tight 90. We have very easily gone over 2 hours before, and I think that the YouTube metrics are telling me that people don't want to watch 2 hours of this. I think some people don't have a problem hanging out with us for 2 hours, but I also want to be respectful of your time, respectful of my family's time upstairs, and all that. And then also we try really hard to like make this a space that people can express frustration with lockdown and the scary world that we live in right now. So if we have questions about that, we're happy to have them feel in this space. But also as we progress, I try to steer us away from that so that we're not like spending 2 hours just discussing like how scared we are that the world is weird. So we can talk about nice things like cameras and boats, right?
Cameras and boats. And side note to that, Michael, and everybody who's here, absolutely no offense if you guys have to X out and get on with your day. I know play of this, Michael, so it's not rude. Don't worry about it. If you got to go, you got to go. Thanks for being here in the first place.
For sure. Yeah. These are intentionally supposed to be a pop in, pop out. If you've got to peace out for a minute and then you want to come back on, like as long as we're here. I mean, I'm not going to like restart the feed if I'm like, I don't know, taking a shower or something later, but we'll be here for a little while. Okay. I'm going to jump right in. The most obvious question, I try to ask every single person this question. How'd you get started in photography?
High school. My junior year photography class, I went to East Grand Rapids High School. My teacher was Mr. Spieg, and
that's a great name. That's a great photography teacher name.
He was a wonderful man, and it was all darkroom digital. And
wait, darkroom digital. What does that mean?
Darkroom film. Sorry.
Okay. I have done darkroom digital photography where you like print it on transparencies and then print them in darkroom, but I don't think that's what you're doing.
It was a combination of both, but we started with film, and so got right into just all the manual settings and developing our own photos, and that's kind of where I got the bug, and it's where I wanted to spend most of my time. I was using an old Canon A1 that died, and just taking a bunch of crap photos. And then my senior year, my parents gifted me for graduation a good old Canon Rebel.
Yep.
And, I just kind of started taking it with me everywhere, as if it was my purse or my phone. Today I did have a phone then. I had a flip phone then.
Did it have a camera?
Yeah. No, it didn't. Not yet.
Yep.
But yeah, post high school, that camera just came with me everywhere. And I kind of had this obsession, as I do to this day, to just document anything, everything.
That's amazing. So we've had this discussion with a lot of people about how a lot of us that are now working professionals got started just being like that dork in our friend group who like was always taking pictures, just had a camera with them. I personally transitioned, like it's not up here, but I've got like my nice, Canon full frame cameras that I use for client work. But I bought this camera last season just as like it's a Fuji X100F. Like the lens does not come off. It is just like this tiny little tight, it literally fits in most of my pockets. And I wonder, do you have something like that you carry around still, or have you transitioned into the professional realm, and do you still do that sort of like self-documentation?
Yes, I still do self-documentation, but I go through phases with it, I'd say.
Yeah.
I'm a Canon gal. I have a Mark III, and
Yep.
that's actually, I still have an original Canon 5D. You can get them for $100 now. And like when I shoot a wedding, that's my second camera. That's like my backup.
I've heard rumor. I've heard people. I haven't shot with a 5D, but I have heard people who swear by that camera. They say that it's like just enough resolution, and then there's some sort of like, kind of like the Leica look, that the OG 5D has this like micro contrast that doesn't show up on the later generations, and that people will hunt them down on eBay because they like outperform or outclass the modern cameras. I don't know about that. I'm tempted to buy one because you can get them for like a couple $100.
They're cheap now, and someone gave that to me in my early 20s. It was my first full frame camera, and it was the first time I really understood how well full frame and Canons can capture deep saturation and colors. And the original 5D is much grainier than the new one. Of course, it's not quite as sharp, but it's cool. It's very filmy looking.
Yeah.
So not that much, but that is what I'm using even to this day as my second camera. Aside from that,
I love
it's
that.
the Mark III that is my buddy that comes with me everywhere. And I've considered kind of downsizing to a smaller, more functional camera for travel. But everybody I've talked to says, yeah, they're great, but it still doesn't compare to that like full frame Canon or Nikon. And I'm so used to schlepping that thing around anyways. Like I've been for 15 years, so why change it now?
We'll have to talk, because I was in the exact same boat for about 5 years, and I was just like, God, there are times when you just don't want to have it, and it's just like whatever it is, like you're hiking in a way, and you've got like too much gear on you, or like, what's that?
Pain in the ass, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. And I literally I researched that X100F for probably a year and a half and just labored over it, and obsessed and stressed and lost sleep over a stupid camera. And I hear you. I believe you. I believe you are correct that there is like no way to really recreate specifically the color science and the just the magic of the Canon full frame cameras. This is about 99% of the way there in my mind. And the fact that I can like pocket this thing, I carry this on wedding days now. And at the end of the day, I flip this on, put all my gear away, and I can get images out of my couples and out of like their family, because I'm not the photographer anymore. So they don't see me as the photographer, that you can't get with like 2 bodies, 4 lenses, flashes, stands. Like you just can't get that with, you can get more with just a smaller camera in some ways.
And I absolutely believe that. I don't doubt that for a second. I guess when it comes down to my decision making, I'm just cheap. Really all it comes down to. I'd love to have one. Let's be serious.
For sure. I'm with you on the 5D Mark III. I rented, borrowed, whatever, some 4s, and just it's fine. I like my 3. I'm also fairly cheap. Like I have the gear that I like, and I don't have extraneous glass. I don't have extraneous bodies really. I've got my cameras and my backups, and then I've got my personal one, and I've got billion film cameras. That's another issue. That's an entire other issue. So let's transition. So I know very little about boats. Tell me about. So we're going from the camera world into the sea. Tell me about. Oh yeah, for the record, I know I'm going to use the term the sea wrong, because we're going to talk about like freshwater and saltwater, which are not seas. I don't care. I really like that phrase. So I'm going to intermix any body of water and just call it the sea generically. But tell me about your boat. Tell me about how you like discovered the sea.
Yeah, great question. And I'll try to make a clear path of it. I suppose it started as a kid, my time at sea. My dad has a 37-foot fiberglass sailboat that was built in 1962. He bought it when he was 21.
Is that a big boat? I don't know boat sizes.
Medium size. It's a pretty average, like ocean crossing vessel size. Like to one, it would appear pretty small. To others, it would appear big. It really just depends on your perspective
Yeah.
and what you're. But it's average to smaller, more petite sized. We would sail on the Great Lakes when I was little with my sister and my mom and my dad, and up to Canada, to the Georgian Bay, to Mackinac Island, Charlevoix, Beaver, all the Michigan hot spots. And it was a family vacation every year. But funny enough, I was not at all interested in sailing as a kid. Like, I was not a sailor kid. I didn't go sailing by myself. I never picked up, racing little dinghies or small boats. My sister was kind of interested, and I think because she was, I wasn't. We always
Mm-hmm. I have that family member.
Yeah, but I loved being on the boat. I loved the adventure of the boat. I loved where it took me. I loved, playing on land when we got there, swimming. And so that's kind of, I guess, where my comfort at the water began. And maybe some unknown confidence I had on the water began. But I did not decide. Am I allowed to swear on here?
Oh, fuck yeah. Well, so somebody who isn't here right now mentioned this in their Instagram caption a long time ago, and I love it. This community is fuck yeah, not fuck you.
Amazing. I don't need to swear yet, but I know that I will drop an F-bomb at some point.
For sure.
Me. Anyway, so I didn't decide that I actually cared about sailing until my early 20s. And that's kind of a whole nother story of how I got the bug to actually buy my own boat. But Katie, my girlfriend who's in this chat here, when we were 2, we decided to buy a sailboat together. We bought a 27-foot little kicker in Chicago. It's called a Cal 27. We got it for $3,500. And at the time, we split it down the middle, and that was like everything we had. And
sorry. So 30. Yeah. Your dad has a 37-foot. Yours is 27. So I know now, empirically, that is smaller. Is that all expensive for a boat? I don't know how much a boat costs.
I mean, boats are priced erratically. Like, if you were to go on sailboatlistings.com, like, just as if you're about to, search for a house, you can search for boats in the same way, put in your parameters. They're priced so erratically. And a lot of it comes down to how valuable it is or is not to the owner. Some people just want to get rid of boats, and some people have put their whole lives into them and have the impression that it's worth, $500,000, where someone else might have a boat that's worth quite a lot, but not want anything to do with it and give it away for 10. So boats are priced very odd. But so yeah, we got a great deal on this, $3,500, and we ended up moving back to Michigan together. And that boat became our home for the next 2 years. And
so cool.
This course called America's Great Loop, which Captain Grace, also in this chat, ended up doing a few years later, kind of inspired by our story. And I will actually, if you guys don't mind, I can share my screen real quick, Michael, and just pull up a photo of the loop. Okay, I say that. And how do I do? Oh, share screen.
Yep.
I'm new to this Zoom thing,
We all are. I mean, I've done a lot of them now, but.
Okay, you guys with me?
Yep, I can see you at least.
Great. Just wanted to show you the little map here. So that's America's Great Loop. Can everybody see that?
Yes, I can. Oh, I can. And the recording can. Okay. If anybody can't, speak up.
So we started in Northport, literally in my backyard here. We kept the boat here for a summer and worked on it with the wisdom of both of our dads, who knew each other from high school. And they're just, boat dorks and know anything and everything about sailing and engines and, boat electrics and plumbing, you name it. And we took off in 2012 to cruise down Lake Michigan, and then that enters into Chicago, Illinois River, Mississippi, Ohio, Tennessee. You go through Alabama, you come out in the Gulf, and you can see from the map.
Very cool.
We took
what is it? What is the difference? And keep in mind my technical understanding of I'll admit I looked up a thesaurus for traveling via water, and the word voyaging was just way too cool not to use. So I'm just going to keep using the word voyaging, even if it's wrong. But what is the difference between voyaging like through something like the Great Lakes versus something like the Gulf of Mexico versus something like a large river? Is that kind of adventuring differently? Like, how does that feel?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. And you could use the word voyage for all of the above. You know, they're all very different experiences, but I mean, just to give you an example, like this trip that we took later led to crossing the Atlantic twice with my now husband. And out of all of the sailing we've done, I'd say, you know, some of our biggest ass kicking was within the Great Lakes, or coastal stuff in comparison to, you know, in the middle of the Atlantic.
Wow.
So yeah, it's all a little bit of an adventure, and anything can happen in any of those situations. And
Does it have to do with the fact that you're like so close to like a transition in geography? Is it because you're on a coast where it goes from water to land?
yeah, so a lot of times with coastal stuff is you have, you know, land that's heating up sea, or sea that's heating up land, usually land, sea. And so you just get kind of these wacky weather patterns around headlands, wind rips around peninsulas, waves stack up when the ocean floor rises from deep to shallow, fog happens near the coast. So it's more of an inconsistency in weather that occurs when you're along the coast, as well as there's things to hit. There's usually shoals, rocks, there's fishing boats, there's ships. So there's actually a lot more hazards when you're close to shore than when you're just out there. I mean, you know, I'd say we didn't see a single thing for over 2 weeks, nothing.
Oh, wow.
So you have all this sea room for, you know, to run with weather or to make mistakes. And, you know, it has its scary side effects, but there's also a sense of safety when there's just nothing to hit. And when weather comes, you just go with it, you know.
So
But
fascinating.
example, rivers are super exciting, and they can also be scary because you're not typically sailing down rivers like the Illinois River, the Mississippi River, the Ohio River. They're raging rivers, and you're depending on, you know, very likely a little diesel engine, which we had a little 11 power kicker, and you know, that thing goes wrong and you can be fucked pretty quick. So you just have to, you always have to be prepared for like what happens when that engine quits. And we were reliant on our engine in the beginning of this journey because we shipped the mast and the sails and everything that makes that boat sail. We shipped down to the Gulf of Mexico, to Mobile, Alabama.
Whoa. Is that a common trick?
It is, because you're going under bridges, and if you're vertical
Smart.
more than gosh, I don't remember what it is. Katie probably remembers what this is.
Some feet.
Yeah, in Chicago it's like 18 feet, and then there's some other that's like 32, and then it raises up to like 52 feet in Tennessee and south of Tennessee. So if your vertical height is any more than that, you're a motorboat and you have to ship all of your rigging. So for the months of our journey, we I think became kind of mechanics before we became sailors. We really didn't know shit about sailing, to be honest, and we were very, very reliant on that diesel.
Was that exciting, or was that nerve-wracking?
Oh, it was
being
terrifying.
inexperienced.
It was terrifying, but that's what made it so exciting, and I think that's what gave us the balls to do it. Because if we had more experience, or if we had kind of known the situations we might find ourselves in, I think we would have been too scared to go. You know, I think a little bit of naivety is a huge ingredient for being able to leave the dock.
Man, that's really interesting. It makes me wonder how many incredible adventures have been stopped by too much knowledge and too much smarts. Like overthinking it to the point of like, yep, not going to happen. I'm not that person. When you could have been and just been like, screw it, we're going to risk it, which, you know, it could have gone the other direction. The story could have been, and then we never saw Jessie again, but it wasn't. And that route looks incredible.
Yeah.
I don't want to say envious, because that makes me feel bad, but yeah, totally envious of that experience.
It was a life changer, and a lot of things kind of slowly evolved as a result of that trip. And, you know, I will be spending the rest of my life on a sailboat because of it.
Right. Well, and you said you were married now because of that trip, essentially, right?
It led to working for sailing magazines. It led to working for boat shows. it led to meeting my husband at a boat show. It led
For
to
sure.
ocean crossings. So yeah, it was just kind of baby steps that began when I was 22, I guess. And now
That those connections that, you know, you said boat shows, sailing magazines, how did they find you? Was this because of social media? Was this before the era of social media? How were you found to get that work?
because of the community, actually, I would say the sailing and cruising community is probably the greatest part about sailing in general. And anybody that spends time on the sea or has lived aboard would agree with that statement. People are really
Amazing.
helpful in the boating world, and they really want to see you succeed. You know, it's not often that people are putting you down or telling you you can't. There's always naysayers, and there are always people that are saying like, oh, you shouldn't leave without this or without that. But
Right.
for the most part, people want to help. People are hands-on, and they'll do everything they can to move you forward, because you know most of the sailing community is older, retired, you know, they have money and they have the time, and there's not that many. There is much more now young people out cruising, but at the time we went, it felt like we were alien mermaids, you know, like there was no young people cruising.
That's so
And
fascinating.
I was WordPress blogging at the time,
Ooh.
on a boat.com, and you know, horrible writing, subpar shit photography, and
Yeah.
and when we met people along the way, we would just share our blog, and it kind of just got passed around, and we would meet people that would, you know, we met this woman in Key West, and she was like, oh, you have to meet Bob Bitchin. And Bob Bitchin publisher of this sailing magazine, and so she connected us, and then they asked me to write an article, and that turned into a, you know, 7-year series of articles. And so it just
That's
kind of,
incredible.
yeah, it evolved, and it evolved without the pressure of really trying, you know.
Yeah.
It was pretty organic, and you know, yeah, it's not like we weren't getting paid to do any of this. I'm not getting paid to do any sailing stuff. It's where I spend all of my money I make in photography goes to
For
boats.
sure.
But just
Well, that's
the excitement of the exposure when you're young and writing an article, or you know, you're passed around, was super fun.
Well, that's fascinating, and I think that the parallel I see in a boating and or sailing and photography are both, they're not that dissimilar. And we end up talking with a lot of people here that are like photographer plus something, web developer, juggler, unicyclist. Like there's so many, or illustrator or something like that. What's that?
Josh Hartman.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, you don't throw that that descriptor on and not know that you're talking about Josh Hartman. So to me it's fascinating to see how similar industries can be and how similar communities can be. I mean, obviously there are aspects of, I call it like the old school photography community, that were much more cutthroat, that were much more like, I'm not going to tell you about that because I want that client that came to you, and if I give you my advice, they're going to come to you and not jump ship and find me. But part of what we're working on building here is creating that space where people can come and feel welcome, and people can feel like that they have kind of stock in their community, that they have a voice to be heard, even if it's, you know, their first, like they're sitting down here to hang out with us, and they're opening their first camera for the first day. I really thrive in that environment. I need that in my life, and I really have no use or interest in being involved in a community of people that are slashing each other down when you could just be like friends. I don't know, maybe that's just like the Midwest in me, but I need that.
No, it's awesome, and it's super important to be doing these kinds of interviews with people who, you know, we follow on Instagram, but their lives don't seem so relatable, or like, how the hell are they doing this and this at the same time? And some people can get mad or upset or envious about that kind of stuff without actually knowing anything about the person, or understanding how they manage those two lives. And you know, one might appear so glorious when it's actually quite difficult. You know, there's a million squares of dreamy fakeness often. So yeah, to be able to talk about it and feel inclusive, I think is super important. So I love what you guys are up to.
Awesome. One of the things that kind of popped into my head when you were showing your path, what year was that you started that journey?
2012 to 2014.
Okay. Okay, so eight years ago. Wow. What are the actual costs of living like on the sea? Like you go into town, you stock up, you fill up the tanks, whatever that looks like. You ship your mast. That's not a sentence I thought I would ever say. And then like what kind of costs do you have that stop you from like just being out in the Atlantic for the rest of your life? How long can you be out? Answer those questions.
Really, really good question. And one thing I will say, just to set kind of foundation for that question, is it massively changes with the size of boat, and it massively changes with your comfort level of having or not having things. Can you camp, or do you need a hotel? Kind of.
Right.
What do you need to physically make it through the night? Some people say a roof over my head, while others say a down comforter and a heated blanket. So it's the price varies, would change for every single person that you ask. Now Katie and I started, I think we left Michigan. I had about $5,000 in my bank account when we left Michigan. We were on a really tight budget, and we paid maybe $30 to $60 for a marina when we needed it. Otherwise, we would anchor, and you can do that for free. And so we would kind of treat our nights at a marina or in a harbor like our hotel night. It was like our...
Can you explain what the difference is between anchoring and a harbor?
Sure. So if you go into a marina, you're tying up to a dock. You can plug into power. You can use water. There's toilets, there's showers, there's laundry, there's internet. All of your like basic needs that you would have at home is what you're paying for. And they charge you per foot of boat. So let's say it's a buck, $27, $2 a foot, $3 a foot. And that changes just depending on where you are. Again, and that price goes up if the bigger your boat gets. But if you were to anchor, you just find basically a protected bay. It could be right here in Northport, and you drop a big hunk of metal off the front.
I do know what an anchor is. I'm not that bad. I have heard of anchors before.
Some people might not be familiar. And stay there overnight. And that also has its precautions you need to take. But it's probably one of the best parts of boating and sailing, to be honest. It's really, really wonderful experience. So we did that as much as we could, mostly because it was free. But, every week or something, we would need fuel, we would need water, we would need provisions. So we would kind of just time out our week based off of what was available and when. We'd spend a couple $100 on groceries twice a month. We only carried, we had a 25-gallon fuel tank for diesel, and I think we carried a spare 20 in jerry can. So, $100 in fuel.
How long does that last? Because I have no idea how these tanks work.
Feel free to jut in, Katie, if you remember this, but I want to say we got about 400 miles off of all of that fuel.
The 25 plus the 20.
Yep, we burned about a third of a gallon an hour. Okay. So I don't know if I'm doing that math correctly, but we burned a third of a gallon diesel per hour that we motored, and we motored from anywhere from 6 to 12 hours a day.
So you had about 45 gallons times a third, so like 135 hours, and you'd be through that fuel. All right. Okay, interesting.
We would travel about, I think we averaged 30 miles a day we would travel, and we did everything in daylight. We had a dog and who would not go to the bathroom on the boat, and we had a cat. So we're definitely kind of scheduled around when Reggie dog needed to go to land, and Katie would kayak him to shore every morning and every evening. And but yeah, so some of the biggest costs, to be honest, was enjoying yourself along the way. Beers, burgers, movies. We never stayed in hotels. We never really, our splurge was rewarding ourselves with a local meal and a cold cocktail. Probably the biggest of our expense. But like shipping a mast, for example, from Michigan to Mobile, Alabama, I think that was $400.
That's kind of cheap.
Yeah, not bad. And maybe like $300 to like get the mast and all the rigging stepped again.
Does that mean put in?
All that stuff is a little bit more expensive now. But yeah, we were pinching pennies at the time, and we made it to Fort Myers Beach, Florida, and stopped to work in a bar.
Cool. You just found work
Yep.
and continue to live on the boat, or?
Yep, lived on the boat the whole time. So you have monthly marina fees, couple $100. You're basically just paying rent to stay in a marina.
That's not that bad.
No, but again, it's all more now.
Yeah, I'm sure.
In the
Just due
last
to inflation, or because more people are doing it?
both, yeah. And I guess I've ended up on bigger boats, so
Oh, that'll do it. That'll do it.
yeah.
What is this new boat you're buying out west? So you bought a 27 to do the loop. What is this new one?
So after the Cal 27, we got it back to Northport. Ended up selling it to our neighbor. It's still here in Northport today.
Cool.
For the next journey, I had now met my husband, and we borrowed my dad's boat, which is it's called a Pearson Invicta 37, and that's in most of the photos that have been on my Instagram for the last 2 years, I'd say, and in some of the ones I shared in the story. It's a beautiful, classic, old, heavily built boat, and it's the one that I grew up sailing on as a kid, and
Cool.
we had this idea to sail from my house to your house, which was Michigan to England, and cross the ocean
Oh.
we got married. So the next 2 years was sailing on that boat. Let me share my screen again, and I'll show you the route that we took. This is super outdated, so I only have half of it to share, but it'll just give you a little idea.
I love the website, by the way. I love the URL.
Thank
Katie
you.
and Jessie on a boat.
Yes, very old. I have not, these are both incredibly outdated, but it's enough to give you guys a little picture. So
wow, that is a hike, man.
My route from Northport to his hometown in the south of the UK. And this was that trip from Michigan to the UK was 3 months in total, but the ocean crossing itself from Newfoundland to England was our Atlantic passage. That took 17 days. And then we stored the boat. We came back next year, went down from the UK down to Portugal, stored the boat again, came back the next year, and then did one long hit from Portugal back to Michigan. And so that was all between my photography season and between my husband's work. So yeah, we just were doing it in chunks, and that's where I kind of had to start seriously managing my sea time and my land time, and separating them, because I couldn't do both at the same time.
Which is a perfect transition into photography. But man, I want to say a stupid non-sailor, non-voyager obvious statement. I know how globes work. I know how balls work. But every time I see routes like this, I'm amazed to remember how far north you must go to go east. Like, it really looks like you're getting close. I mean, you're not near the Arctic Circle though, right?
Not quite. This was about 52 degrees north, and the UK is situated on much higher latitudes than we're at 45th, and we're about to the south of France, and I think the south of England is 51, I believe. So yeah, the shortest way to get there is via Newfoundland, and that's 500 miles of crossing the Labrador Sea that comes down from in between Greenland and the Hudson Bay up here, and that's known as Iceberg Alley. So this is actually a huge, right where we come around Newfoundland there, that is the lighthouse that was, and the person attending that lighthouse was the first one to be contacted by the Titanic that sunk, like somewhere over here. So this is big iceberg area, and it's not as common for small boats such as ourselves to take that route. Most people take a longer way that's further south, less wind, no icebergs, or less chance of icebergs, but it's also it's a huge shipping lane because it is the shortest distance because of its high latitude. Lots of ships up there, which is good and bad depending on how you look at it. Something you have to look out for, but also a means of communication is closer if needed.
When you're traveling across the Atlantic like this, is it like air traffic where you can like look out I don't know which way this is, starboard, and see like giant other boats, or are you at sea by yourself, seeing nobody forever, and just kind of like seeing pings on like a radar or something that you know they're nearby?
Great question. You're alone, and you should consider yourself alone. I think anyone who decides to cross an ocean needs to go into it the mentality that absolutely no one is going to be there to help you.
Right.
It's not safe and realistic to assume that someone is there to help you, even if you're in a shipping lane. You know, there are chances, but nothing is guaranteed. You really have to go planning to be completely self-sufficient and self-reliant, which is terrifying.
Yeah.
Name of the sport. And there is, in the shipping lanes, I'd say on that route across the North Atlantic, we saw a ship on there's an automatic identification system. It's called an AIS. And on your GPS, on your map, you can see where ships are. They're little rectangles. They look like little pizzas. We call them pizzas all the way across. And it says the name of the ship, where it's coming from, where it's going to, its course, its speed, and its call sign. So you can contact them. Even if it's, 20 miles to starboard or to port, you could contact them, really just for shits and giggles, to say, hey, we're out here. How you doing? Any weather update? Because they have.
Do people do that? Is there a social aspect to that?
There is, yeah. And, some captains are keen to chat and some are not.
Right. Because I imagine in my head, it would be very like the people, captaining a, something more commercial would be akin to an airline pilot who's, every syllable is scripted and it doesn't feel necessarily comfortable.
Tight and regimen as like air traffic control.
Right.
It's a little bit looser, especially when you're out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, no one's picking up what you're saying. It's just you two, and just to have that moment of human connection is really gratifying when you're.
That's cool. I mean, at the end of the day, you can sink, but also if you stop, a plane just falls, a boat just kind of hangs out, right?
It happens slower. Yeah. Definitely happens a lot slower. So I'd say on that North Atlantic route, we saw a ship on the radar or on the AIS every few days, but we didn't necessarily see it in real life because it was far, visibility wasn't good. So it's like you they're out there, but you don't ever see each other. But then also part of your 4-hour on, 4-hour off watch is looking for ships, because there is always a chance that, you could collide with one. And that's one of the biggest safety things you have to take when you're in a shipping lane, is making sure you're looking for them at all times, even if you
maybe this is like 14-year-old Michael asking a question, or maybe this is like an actually interesting question. Are there pirates? Is that a thing still?
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, they don't have like parrots and have peg legs, I assume, but like
maybe somewhere
there are pirates.
Let me put it this way. There are particular areas of the world that are known to be avoided because people are poor and they need things. It is very, very rare. I've never known anyone personally to have any kind of pirate situation. I've known people that have gotten stuff stolen in the middle of the night, but really more just like kids trying to steal some shit, not any serious pirate situation. But it does exist. It is a very small threat to sailing, but
gotcha. If you left like your Nintendo Switch out or your MacBook on the counter and someone just saw it, they might sneak in and grab it. But there's not like a dude with a black and white striped shirt and a tri-corner hat that's swashbuckling.
I think cargo ships are more often vulnerable to pirates, because it's usually a small core community or village that needs something to survive, and they'll do any desperate measures to get something off that cargo ship, and that cargo ship could, Captain Phillips. It's all about Captain Phillips, like that. They don't want anything from us. We don't have shit.
Right. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. So Sarah had a question, which again I think is an interesting transition to the other half of the metaphor. Is your husband's career as flexible for sailing as yours?
Great question. And no, we're on that right now. So he was originally working for a sailmaker. I'll go ahead and stop my share here. Yeah. He was originally working for a sailmaker in the UK. He was literally selling sails to sailmakers and to sailors. which is why he was working at boat shows. He was doing a lot of traveling, but he was based in the UK. And with our first trip from Michigan to the UK, he was able to pull off that trip as a working trip. We were writing articles. We got a whole set of hide sails to represent his company.
Cool.
Advocates for them in the cruising community. And, you know, he was pretty strategic about how he pulled that off. But that trip took longer than he had told his office it would. That caused some drama. And then later in the year, we did another passage, which also took longer. And so every time he's out of office, people are covering for him.
Yeah, that makes sense.
We knew that when we were going to go across the Atlantic again to come back to Michigan, that he was not going to be able to pull that off with his job. And he ended up quitting and moving to the US. And that was shortly after, basically, we got married. He quit. He moved to the US. And then it took over a year and a half for him to get his green card to work here, even though we were married. So he just started working in January.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So all that time it was, you know, kind of the pressure of my photog industry to keep us going, which worked. You know, it was tight, but it worked. And so yeah, he's just getting going and doing more sales consulting and stuff within the marine industry, but doing his best and our best for him to set it up in a way in which we can have that flexibility like I do in my career. So
that's beautiful.
Kind of stuff without either of us having to quit work, you know?
For sure. So let me see. We kind of skipped over that one. I wrote, is there a big difference for you between your work on land and your work on the sea? Like photography, I'm gonna leave that question open-ended actually.
I love that question because the answer is yes, actually. And I don't know how to describe it well, but I actually work much harder when I'm on the boat. Photo work to me, my career work, the work that gets me the income to pay for sailing, that is fun and it feels easy in comparison to sailing itself or to passage making or to boat maintenance.
Sorry, what is passage making? Is that just the voyaging?
Yeah, basically crossing an ocean or prepping across an ocean, prepping for a big trip and understanding everything that it takes to make it there alive. Photography has been like, I feel like I've carried it with me for so long. It all happened very organically. The career part of it happened very organically. It's a place I'm really comfortable, and it's interesting because in my photo season, in my wedding season, I work more hours, you know, way more hours than I do when I'm sailing or working on the boat. But it all feels very fluid and normal. And, you know, I'm either driving around beautiful Leelanau County, meeting awesome strangers who are quickly my friends, and then spending the whole next day in bed in my robe, editing, drinking coffee, you know, so it's all kind of on my own time. And it all feels pretty natural, and I enjoy the work. Whereas sailing and boat maintenance and fixing things and preparing for voyages, it's not natural. It's hard. It tests me hugely in every department. It like forces you to learn things that you don't think you're capable of learning. It's just such a different kind of challenge and reward. It's a game, you know, and you get addicted to the game, and you get addicted to your ability to fix things without help. It's an addiction to like resourcefulness and self-reliance and minimalism in a way. Because when I come back to land, like things just feel super convenient and easy. So
interesting.
Harder on boats and to make that lifestyle happen, which is hysterical because it's where I spend all my money. So the way in which I make my money comes and the way in which I spend it is really hard. But like it's a very, very active choice. Like I want to do those things because those sailing rewards are great. They're very large and they make me crave my community and my people and my land life. And then my land life does exactly the same. It makes me crave the challenge of sailing in the quietness and the self-sufficiency, you know?
I love that seasonality. I love that duality to the life we've built, which is something that we've been striving for the past few years. We're not as successful at that. We definitely have more volatility in our lives, where the other space that we spent a lot of time had been, other than this year, Asheville, North Carolina, which is how I know Christian really well. And that space to us is that sort of like getting away into the mountains, escaping, admittedly, the frozen cold. And I think that especially a lot of people who live up here understand that duality, understand that the kind of bifurcated, is that the right word? Bifurcated season?
Yeah, it really is a little bit of a double life. And for particular personalities, it works really well. Like I deal well with that split life, but I don't know if you guys feel the same, but I've very much learned that I have to separate them. And when I check out to go do my sailing season or prep for whatever voyage we're going to go on, it takes everything I have, and I have to put work aside. I've thought really hard about how I could integrate the two, or how I could, make a living on the boat, for example, versus come back every year to do photos. But I've just learned that it's much more demanding every time I go back to the boat, or to work on the next thing that needs doing. It's demanding, and I don't necessarily want to be sidetracked by work. So I've separated them. And I think I know people are curious about just like, how are you communicating with potential clients, right? Or like, a big, negative to this switching back and forth is that I do lose out on work. And I just have to accept the fact that, I'm not always in communication. I might miss inquiries. I might miss a wedding inquiry, which sucks, like if I'm just not fast enough, someone that's not going to go to me. But that's something that I guess I've been willing to give up to do the sailing stuff. But for example, like if I'm going to be completely out of communicado for multiple weeks, I just do an auto response on my email and I say, hey, where I am, this is what I'm doing. Usually people respect it and they think it's cool. I'm not just like off in Mexico on a vacation. Like it's some tough stuff. And I think people get excited about that, but it also means I lose work. So it's both things.
I'm going to make a bold assumption.
Yeah.
I think your clients fucking love you, right?
Thanks, Michael.
Am I right? Like,
I mean,
like you're can I assume that your clients are like all in on like the sailing thing? They're all into like the entire like mystique of you, right?
I do get that sense of intrigue, and the fact that I'm not always available is okay for most people. And the fact
And
that
so Brooke and I
photography, I think people also appreciate that,
Yeah, we've talked about this quite a bit here, but also Brooke and I talk about this a lot. The fact that we travel as frequently as we do, the fact that we do have this kind of like duality to our lives. When we have been out of communication, when we are in the middle of the mountains and there is no cell reception for a 2-hour drive, this is gonna sound terrible. The wrong client, the person that's going to stress about it, the person that's going to not see what we're projecting on our website, which for us is a lot of like lack of perfection, authenticity, honesty. We're going through like a whole Zevalkink photography rebrand right now, and our entire byline is just good humans. And so our connection is to the humanity of the people that we photograph. Like, the genre be damned. I don't care what you're doing. I just want to like get to know you, and then I'll photograph that thing. So we've talked a lot about the people that can see through that, are willing to put up with you being on a voyage for 10 days, and they can't have like an Instagram DM 30 seconds, like, oh, hold on, let me shut down the Zoom call. I have somebody who wants to spend money on me. Like that, the fact that they don't have that for the right person, that's kind of why they're right for you. And I feel like this is a little bit of a filtering bubble where, you might be missing out on work, but there's a chance that that person would have just been like, oh, cool, thanks. That's interesting. I'm going to go look at these other 14 people that I inquired with anyway.
For sure. And that's why it's worth it for me to, lose some occasionally. It seems to come in enough to fill the space and to get through the season. And yeah, all I can do is just be super transparent with people and let them know what I'm up to. And yes, I'll lose jobs here and there, but more often than not, people think it's great and they're more intrigued.
Yeah. I think there's something going on in business, and by business I mean like our weird branch of business where we're like business owners but creatives. I think there is something going on where people are much more interested in that like authentic connection with the people that they work with, where a few years back you would have had somebody who says, hell no, if I can't have you 24/7 365 at my beck and call, why am I paying you all this money? And instead I feel like people want to be bought into your story. And I think especially for whoever's listening right now or on the recording later, who just needs to hear that wedding that you missed last week that is like that just didn't book you, is probably for the best in some ways. Like you probably needed the money and you probably wanted the money. And I'm not here to say that like money will always come to you when you need it. I'm not like a prosperity preacher or whatever that is called. But there is something to be said about people who are not your tribe or your community like passing on you.
Absolutely. And, I think it's fair, and I think it's our right as photographer to also kind of be scoping out the people we're working with. And I don't.
Totally. It feels icky at first. It feels like, you want to spend money with me and I'm going to say no, thank you. Like it feels weird at first.
It feels icky at first until you experience an icky time with that person that isn't worth it. Or, just it can be an attitude or it can be an air. And, if that doesn't feel worth your time, you're right also. So yeah, I think it's okay for people to be, kind of feeling out their clientele. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that's what attracts particular personalities and attitudes to.
Yeah. I mean, to make it even more reductive, I mean, every business on the planet does that. They just do it with marketing, they do it with their branding, they do it with the services that they provide. Burger King doesn't have, I don't know, I've been to Burger King a long time. Ribs? Do they have ribs? I don't know what Burger King has. If they don't have ribs, they don't have ribs because they don't want to offer that, and the client that wants that is not right for them. So maybe I'm just overthinking it. Maybe this is just like a reductive reasoning, but we're so accustomed to, as a creative, just being like, I need to get paid. There's something very, very beautiful about that. Let's transition into, I want to talk about like your something that immediately would kind of like freak me out, or I've been on a boat with a camera. Talk to me about like your technology workflow, like electricity plus water does not do well. So like, I want to know about like the security of your boat. I want to know about like, how are you taking pictures, storing them, editing them, going through that process?
Yeah, all great questions.
You can dig in a deep or as not as deep into the actual like mechanics of it as you want.
Sure. I mean, it is kind of interesting because we don't just have like a bunch of outlets on the wall to charge our shit,
Yeah.
Everything has to be considered what and when you're charging. And it's either coming down to when you're running an engine, or if you have enough sun to run the solar to charge the batteries and you're using an inverter, and sometimes that fries your stuff too. So it's not always easy to just like keep things charged. And I won't use my laptop that often. Canon batteries last a long time, which is great. So I'll always make sure I have all those batteries charged up. And I mean, I think when we crossed the North Atlantic, I didn't even change my first battery until the last week of that crossing.
Wow.
I do have one, just, nice compact Pelly case that I'll keep everything in. It's nice and watertight, fireproof, the whole deal. So for all my electronics, hard drives, cameras, lenses, laptop, it all goes in there. I have made the mistake of having everything right next to it and not in it in a very bad situation, and laptop pulled the camera out of a puddle of water. Yeah, I mean, I've had, but at the same time, like, hard drives crash at home. Like, this stuff just happens. Like, it's never really, I'm not very conservative about it. Maybe I should be. I consider that Canon my tool, and it is dirty. I use it.
For sure.
Not nice looking, and I don't need it to be nice looking. It works great.
I pulled this out a few times. I've got this prop. This is not my first SLR, but this is like the first workhorse that I had. But like, there are no grips left on this thing. This, like, all of the padding and foam and adhesive, it's all gone. It's scratched to hell. But I'm a big believer that, as you said, this is a tool. And if I'm gonna like miss the shot because I didn't want to walk down there where I could potentially, scuff something, then why am I taking pictures?
I also, like, I've never used anything else aside from a Canon, and I think partly why I've never cared to even explore or discover outside of Canon is because they're tanks. Like, I can't believe how many times I've dropped it, gotten it soaking. Like, it is not a waterproof camera. It's not like, I've kind of treated it like shit, and I'm gonna jinx myself now. I'm actually really saying this out loud.
20 minutes from now, it's gone.
And such a machine, and I can't even believe it sometimes, of like what I've put it through, and that's just keeps on working.
Do you have an underwater housing for it?
No, I don't. So the underwater shots I have are a crappy old GoPro with a $30 dome fitting on the end.
Love it.
And like, you can't blow those things up any bigger than your computer screen. So it's really cool, small, but like, God forbid ever blow it up or, zoom in. They're pretty pixelated, but it's enough to, kind of capture an experience and have fun. Like, I cringe when I try to edit them, but at the same time, some of them turn out cool.
For sure. I think there's something to be said about not over obsessing over the perfectly crafted Instagram feed.
Totally. And that's the cheap me as well, because I've wanted to buy an underwater housing for years, and I just keep not doing it. So I'm like, I'm not gonna make money off of it. Like, it's just personal. I want to do it just because I want to do it. So yeah, I have not done it, hence the GoPro and the $30 dome fitting.
I might have something to share with. I have not tested this. A buddy of mine out west is like sponsored by these guys, so take it for what it's worth. There's a new housing called Outtex. Have you seen this?
Oh, no.
I just linked it in the chat. It's basically like it screws on to like the front filter here, and then it's just like not neoprene, it's like a membrane, and it's just like goo, and it just wraps around. And I think, I don't remember exactly. They're cheap though. I mean, compared to like, that $1,600, $3,200 for like an actual, let's see, products, entry kits. I want to say they're like less than $400 or something like that. $295 for the entry kit. Okay.
That could be worth trying.
Or not, because it might break, and I have no idea because I don't know anything about them.
Like, I've kind of done some sketchy things with my camp. Like, I've been swimming in the water just on a glassy day, behind the boat or whatever, and just trusting my ability to swim and hold it above the water. It's like one of those things that in the moment it seems brilliant, and then like you get out, and I was just thinking, what the fuck did I just do? But it worked. I know, like, that kind of stuff you can only get away with so many times. So, you do have to be careful, but I've been lucky so far.
Okay. What is your like guilty creature comfort, whether it's like for creativity or just for like, you have limited space on the boat for travel? Do you have anything like that?
Yeah. I mean, I'm embarrassed to say it, but I take my laptop everywhere. Like, whether I need it or not, I feel
Philip
like,
says bye.
Bye, Philip. Nice to meet you. Yeah, I wish it wasn't my creature comfort, but I have some kind of comfort in having my laptop with me. Literally, if I need it or not, it's like it comes with me, and I'm not sure why. It's kind of like something, it gives me some kind of, I have something to do all the time just in case if it's there.
Yeah, I feel something similar. I tried last summer I tried last fall when my laptop needed a new battery and a little bit of repair. I experimented with going to completely like an iPad workflow, and I didn't get the same sort of like, and making things. There's something about like hands on a keyboard and a trackpad or like a little mouse on the side that as a content creator, not just a consumer, I feel like I can do things. And I don't know if that's just in my head and like I grew up on this, and so you know, someone younger than me would be like, no, I just do everything on my iPad or my phone. But I have the exact same thing. This thing gets lugged around way too often.
Yeah, it's crazy. When it comes to just like little simple stuff though, I feel like I bring a headlamp like everywhere I go. And as often as I can, depending on plane situation, I bring a Leatherman. Those are like two things that are always.
Kat says goodbye and she says air hugs.
Bye, Kat.
Oh yeah, Leatherman and headlamp. I mean, my understanding of your world comes from like backpacking and camping. So it's the same exact thing, right? I don't feel like they're that dissimilar. But if I roll over my sleep, I'm probably not going to drown when I'm in a tent.
Exactly.
Cool. Well, that's kind of the majority of the questions that I have. I know a few people had to peace out, but if anybody has any more questions and they want to kind of just fire them at Jessie. Hannah, you got anything?
Ask away, guys. I'm an open book. I'm also happy to share at some point. If you want me to share my screen again, I can just do kind of a quick scroll through of my photo work, and I might have a few more sailing things to share.
That'd be great. Hannah, do you have something you want to talk about?
I'm just wondering, like, how you gave yourself the initial push. Like, I feel like sailing can be like really scary. And I feel like giving yourself that initial push to be like, okay, this is what I want to do with my life. Like, how did you do that? I know that's kind of like a very broad, long question, but it just amazes me that people are able to kind of get out of their own heads and just face scary situations like that. Like, how did you do that for your first time going on like a really long voyage?
Yeah. Hi, Hannah, and so nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Great question, and it almost has a book-length answer that are important in that answer. That begin with, I grew up with a dad who was happy for me to make mistakes. So, for example, you know, okay, here you go. You take the helm. You dock the boat. Hands off, no words. Just try it, you know. And it was like, if you messed up or if you hit something, great, we'll fix it. You know, so it was this really, really calm and accepting of mistake mentality that I think really helped remove the fear in sailing, that when I ended up taking it up as an adult, you know, because I kind of ended up taking that same mentality of mistakes are okay. Like, don't be terrified of them because you're going to make them. There's no way to avoid them. Like, everything is fixable, and everything might not seem fixable at first, but you'll learn how to fix it. And once you fix it once, you'll never forget how to do it again, and you'll never make that mistake again. So, you know, a simple answer to that is not being afraid to make those mistakes. And otherwise, we just live in fear of them. And so many people never will leave the dock or, you know, try that first solo sail because they're terrified to make those mistakes. Just make them and you'll be fine. You know, it'll be scary and you'll have a great story to tell. And then everything just slowly becomes less and less scary after that when you understand your ability to handle the mistakes that you make. So that's kind of the big broad answer to that. I guess I've also had some kind of like fiery burn to prove people wrong. I think more as a kid. Now I don't really anymore because I don't feel like I have anything to prove anymore. But, you know, as a teenager and into my young 20s, I had some kind of like, you probably don't think that I can do this, therefore I would really like to do this. And that was some odd motivator I had that I don't know where that came from. I really have no idea. I can't really pinpoint it on everything. It probably came from having a very negative sister who was always like, you can't do this without this qualification, or you have no experience. Well, how does one get experience without experiencing? You know, so it's a things that just like, I guess, go back to childhoods and teenage years that were, a comforting place. I was provided on a boat as a kid, and then motivation to be different, prove wrong as a teenager. And then as I slowly started making those mistakes, handling those mistakes, getting more experience by purely experiencing, not because someone was giving it to me, but because I was giving that experience to myself. And then that's where the confidence it grows. It's slow and you don't even realize it's happening, but all of a sudden a few years will go by and you'll be like, damn, I just did that. And, the boat is still afloat and I learned so much more and now I'm ready to cross an ocean.
Amazing.
That's an awesome answer. Thank you.
Though, Hannah, I am always scared. Like, I would be lying if I said, like, I'm just this fearless, gutsy creature that just takes off. It's terrifying every time, and that fear never goes away, but your relationship with fear changes. And I've become very drawn to being in that state to the point where I kind of want it. And if I'm not a little bit scared, then I'm bored.
There's a quote that I'm not going to remember who it's from or if it's just, I accidentally once quoted what I thought was a scientific study about where to install the car seat in the new car when we had a baby, and I accidentally quoted Dwight Schrute from The Office, and that's not good data, so we moved it. But there's a quote that's like, fear or bravery isn't the absence of fear, but it's the willingness to stand up in the face of it, or something like that. So the idea that like those among us that are more brave are not the ones that don't have that like fear reflex. It's those that like, oh my God, this is terrifying. All right, let's do it.
Yeah. Hey, to follow up on that, Hannah, and Mia too, I'm going to say this too, because I know you're kind of interested in getting into sailing. Who you choose to learn to sail from and how your gut feeling is when you're sailing with that person or on that boat, listen to that. And, you don't like the approach of how someone's teaching you, don't sail with them. Like if someone makes you feel stupid, if someone is making you feel like you're asking dumb questions, if someone is making you feel like this is common sense and you should maybe get it quicker, not the kind of experience anybody should have when they start sailing, because it's a big, scary, intimidating sport, and you need to be able to learn on your own time and in your own way, and everybody learns very differently. So
it's a good reminder for like education as a whole, right? It's like regardless of what you're learning, that like any mentor in your life should be there to like guide you, not chastise you.
Exactly. And perfect example of this that I had to learn in my late 20s was when I got on a boat with Luke, my now husband. I could not learn from him. Like, he is way more experienced than I am. He's been sailing since he was 11 years old. It's been his entire life. He eats, smokes, and drinks sailboats. Like, it's his thing. But for some reason, like, I could not be his student. It was really odd. And like, I could be a student to my father, but like I could not be a student to my future husband. And it was just very different approaches. It was all in goodwill. It was all just to prep for the journey. Like, he was not an asshole. It was just like, I, for some reason, was not receptive to the way in which I was being taught, like very important things that I need to be taught. I was a really crappy student. And that was a big awakening to me. Like, whoa, I learn this way, not this way. And I don't know if I can change that. Like I don't think I can actually change the process in which I learn.
Jessie, that doesn't make you a bad student. Like, so Brooke has a master's degree in education from U of M, and there's a what's that?
Bad student to that person.
Well, no, but that's not true, because in education theory, they talk about differentiating learning styles. And that just means that the way that he was an educator did not connect with the way that you were a learner. And so that just means that you're not right. He's not right for you as a mentor. You can be married to a person and still not want to learn from them.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, we had a big disconnect when we first started sailing together, and man, we've come a long way, I'll tell you that. But it was just like this really big expedited trip that we put a lot of pressure on to complete in X amount of time with our jobs. And so it really just sped up the process of, some things that could take years to learn about each other. And it was fascinating. And that was the first thing I realized was, wow, I have a very specific way of learning, and we somehow need to cross this bridge where we can, work as a team better together. And to be honest, I'd say that took us 2 oceans to sort it out. That now. But it was not like an overnight thing. It took a while. It took a lot of hard conversations, but that's what it takes, I guess.
Cool. Does anybody have any more questions, or do you want to go back through, look at some photo stuff? Cameron, you got any questions?
So, I mean, I don't remember if this was asked at all, but during your voyages and your trips with your husband and, your time out at sea, what is like your biggest motivation to still stay creative and still like have that urge to, take pictures and, like just continue to hone your craft and like just staying motivated?
Killer question.
That's a great question, and nice to meet you. Thanks for being here. It's a hard question because I'm not very motivated when we're offshore. You're mostly just like kind of in survival mode. You're eating, you're sleeping, you're sailing, you're eating, you're sleeping, you're sailing, and like it takes, I would say, almost a week before my mind can wander outside of those basic needs. I would say on both long voyages, I did not touch my camera for a week, and I wasn't interested. It wasn't about that. It was a very internal journey, and it took me just getting into the rhythm of what we were doing to find any kind of routine or motivation to pick the camera up. But it starts to creep in. I've been writing a little bit every day. You're feeling a little bit more and more energized every day. Just really intense emotional waves of this is terrifying and then this is amazing, and I'm happy and I'm frustrated, and it's definitely an emotional roller coaster like I've never experienced on land before. And to be honest, like it's my answer to that question is not very pretty. I have to pull my thumb out of my ass and say, Jessie, look at where you are. Get your camera. Get it now. You're going to remember this. And so it's just those moments of like, get out of your own head right now, see where you are, and don't forget this shit.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It's kind of a rough answer, but that's how it feels. But I will say, like when we're on land and exploring places, or doing boat work and projects, I can't put the camera down. For some reason, like I love documenting the rawness of boat work and the all the stuff that it requires to make that life happen. I think it's really important for people to see, because it's not just rainbows and butterflies. There's a lot behind the scenes. I'm most motivated to document that stuff than I am, sunsets and whales kind of thing.
That's beautiful. I love that.
Yeah.
Say it again.
You can Google all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. I get fed up with the I'll call it travel porn, or just like all of the like, look at this incredible sunset. Look at this incredible sunset. Look at this view. This is an insane view. Look at this beautiful shot of my boat in a crystal cove. Like that gets old really fast, and seeing like the humanity of somebody. I don't know what boat work looks like, but I imagine like pulling on a cable covered in grease with gears down there.
Ugly and awkward.
What's that?
That it's ugly and it's awkward. And I think I so agree with you, Michael. And I'm motivated by the viewer or the reader understanding that I'm working hard for it, and that it wasn't given to me. I'm not getting paid to do it. Here are all these beautiful travel sailing photos, but read what I have to say about it so you can understand where this photo came from, or how I was actually feeling in this photo. This beautiful photo, I might not have been doing so hot, so I think combining the two elements of the reality behind the scenes with a beautiful image is kind of what I'm motivated by, and for people to not, because I get equally frustrated by these like super unrelatable, incredible travel pages and sailing pages. Like, was it like that though? Was it? So me being able to put words to it as honest as I can is equally as important than just taking a pretty picture,
Okay, Mia, I have to watch it. Not now. I will hold
So
myself.
good, you guys. Yeah, it's just this YouTuber just basically critiquing these travel influencers videos, and he calls it fart content because it's fuck around, relax travel.
Oh man, fart content is great. Oh, that makes me really happy. Mia, were you jumping? I saw you jumped on the camera. Was there something else you want to ask?
Yeah, I mean, only if we have time still, though.
No, for sure. I only impose the time limit to respect everybody's time, but enough people have pieced out of here that they obviously like they know that they are not required to stay.
Yeah. Well, Jessie, I love the way you think about life, and you don't really separate anything. Like, it all kind of works together for you. And so I'm wondering now, with COVID and with the uncertainty, how do you think about time? How do you think about money right now? Like, what are you prioritizing from a sailing perspective, from a business perspective? I love hearing your brain work on this kind of stuff.
Oh,
Great question.
Such a good question, and so good to see you. Your hair looks amazing.
Yours does too.
For those of you who are still here, Mia was my inspiration to shave my head after I photographed her, so she gets all the cred. Great question. I'm gonna start with, I guess, like most of us, I feel like I'm just constantly sitting in a little pool of panic and worry, and it's so not my personality, and it's driving me mad. I'm like, this is not me, but I can't quite seem to step outside of that little pool of worry and panic. Photography for me has supported my husband and I for the last 2 years and our ability to go sailing. And so the fact that it's going to look very differently this year is just massively disappointing. I'm really bummed. I'm not gonna lie. I've had my pity party and my woe is me, like everybody has, and I have my days where I feel super grateful, and I look around, I'm like, I can be outside all I want. I can go rowing, I can go biking, I'm staying busy, I'm staying productive, I'm not bored. But then I often find myself switching gears to just being super bummed, really, really bummed. So, I don't have a great epiphany yet. I feel like I need more time. I'm very, very much a retrospective person, and things take a while for me to be clear sometimes. I have not made sense out of any of this yet. My biggest thing right now is just I hope that we can do the sailing things we were planning on doing this next season, this next year, next summer. It's not looking like we can. So I think it's just, I'm trying to find my purpose still, because both of my purposes, which are photography and sailing, neither of them can happen right now, and I don't really know when they can happen again. And that's a really weird feeling. I know they will happen again. They're just delayed, right? And it feels too far away. It feels unfair. Feels so unfair, but there's literally nothing you can do. And like everybody else, I'm just kind of trying to find the silver lining. And even though we're not making any money, at least there's nowhere to spend money. So I'm just trying to stay even, even out right now. And
I keep thinking about this, we're all just gonna forget that these months happened. There's just a do-over of late winter, early spring. We're let's just all pretend that didn't happen, and let's just get moving with what would have happened.
I love, and I wish I was up there with some other people, but I love how creative some people are being right now, and I love that people are giving themselves a chance to be creative. I've actually been creative since I shaved my head. Don't know why. But yeah, I think people are just up to some really cool stuff. And one thing I do feel really fortunate about is that in my relationship and in my marriage, this is very normal to us to just be alone together for a really long time. And I know a lot of couples are struggling with that right now, and it's the first time they've ever had to do that. And so that's an area where I feel really, really fortunate. I'm this is totally, this is all we know, is being stuck in a small space together, something that we're unknowingly prepping for from the moment we started sailing together. So that's probably what I feel most fortunate for right now. If I could end on a positive note, I think that's been the coolest part about all of this.
I love that.
Salad.
We've talked a lot in here about, and I don't know if I said this already this afternoon, but I always have to check my language on this because I always have to like honor the fact that this is harming people's lives, businesses, families. People are like losing family members over this. But we have this time as like a creative community to like, nobody's going anywhere. So like we can schedule these Zoom calls like twice a week, and noon and 3, doesn't really matter when it is, people are going to be around. So Brooke and I have the same thing where we work next to each other. We live next to each other. I'm literally like, I don't mean like we have a house next door. Like my desk is her desk. My bed is her bed. Like we share a small home together. We were joking when we had Milo that this was just like another project, just like any other like product launch or anything like that. And lockdown has kind of felt similar. It's like, okay, cool. Like again, this sounds really reductive and maybe offensive if this has harmed you in other ways, but like we've been preparing for doomsday every single season by putting half of our income away so that we can have like the catastrophe of not having clients during Northern Michigan winters. And so we have a similar like gratitude for the preparedness that we have, while at the same time understanding like that not everybody has that. And there are people who are like, I have this ball of anxiety that like I can't seem to get rid of. I exercise that by being here with this community. But I know that people are hurting. So I always have to like double check my language when we're.
No, for sure. Yeah. I think there's just, it's wild how big of a divide, just the globe is in how they're feeling about this. And some people, are at home getting paid, doing just fine and loving their family time, while others are, struggling to get food on the table. So everybody is experiencing it very, very differently, which is, I think, the most fascinating thing about this entire experience. But it is affecting every single human in some way or in the other. And that's
for sure.
So, yeah. But I don't know about you guys, but like I'm noticing I'm like wearing pretty thin on my like social distance patience. Like I'm getting like worse and worse about everything. Like I just want to hang out with people.
Yeah.
I want to go places.
I find myself rationalizing like, well, we could go for a hike and we'll like keep the distance, but maybe like 6 is a lot of feet.
I know. I'm losing patience though. I've noticed like last month I was all good, like so compliant. And now I'm like, you guys want to have a bonfire?
I think we should wrap soonish. Instead of doing a scroll through some of your images, if you want to share some with me, I can do a little. I've been meaning to do this. I'd like to do like a little feature on. I know we shared some of your work on the Photo Club Instagram. We'll be putting the show notes together, and I'll make sure that we link to like your photo work, to the Instagram, to the website. I'd love to see where we can read some of the writing that you've mentioned. So I've linked to some of that stuff. So if you want to send some of those images that are like kind of some of your favorites that you've had, I can put them together as like a little feature and maybe put some on the blog as well. Does that sound good?
That sounds wonderful. I'll email you over some stuff.
Any other questions before we bail, guys?
Thank you for sticking around this long. You guys are wonderful.
For sure. Jessie, is there anything you want to like talk about? Is there anything you want to share before we bail?
No, I just think this is super cool. And I'm really bad about reaching out to people, especially the photo community. I don't know why. I feel like I just like kind of live in my own little world and I'm not paying attention too much to what's going on around me sometimes. So this is really fun and it's really cool for me to know that people are interested in my story, I guess. It's not much when it's your own life. It's just your own choices and your own stuff. And the fact that it's intriguing to other people is always pretty special. So thank you guys for being here.
Yeah, thanks, Jessie.
Back off of that, Jessica, I think another reason that a lot of people have trouble like reaching out to other like fellow photographers is because also when you're like thinking about it like a business oriented, those are also your competitors. Those are going to be the people that like Hannah, for example, is one of my friends. Am I worried that I'm going to lose clients to her? Absolutely. Like, but I still love her and, like I want to see her be successful as well. But it's also that mentality of, like I have to be looking out for me, but I also want to see them succeed. But it's also been just super nice to like, I mean, this is only my second Zoom meeting with this group, but just like from what I've seen so far, like everyone is just so supportive, and like this community that Michael has built has just been so like amazing, you know, like it's just so wonderful to see everyone, you know, like supporting each other and, you know, being like, oh my gosh, like you go girl, or you go dude, like your photography is like amazing, you know, like, and just giving like helpful tips and like being like, oh hey, I really like this, you know, like I think you should try this, or, you know, like just like everyone like getting out there and like especially like during uncertain times just to show like that love and support and just humanity has just been absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you, Cameron. I'm super, super honored and stoked to be a part of it. And I agree. I think it's really important for all of us creatives because we all are our biggest critics and can get down on ourselves pretty quickly when it comes to creativity. So yeah, it's important. It's a good group, and I'll definitely be participating more.
Cool. Sounds good, guys. Well, I'm around. I'm working on a lot of things behind the scenes right now. And so if anybody has creative feedback on what we're doing or how we communicate or anything like that, we did a really good roundtable discussion last week, kind of like giving me feedback on how I can help build this. But none of this is set in stone, and I'm an open book. I want to know how we can grow, how we can do better, and how we can reach more people and help more people. So hit me up anywhere, all of the places. You guys have 1,000 ways to get in touch with me. I'm around.
And real quick, how's dad life?
Yeah. Dude, it's so good. I grew up my mom runs a daycare out of her house. And so I grew up, like, I have changed more messy diapers than any other human being, at the very least in this Zoom call, I assume. So I was never worried about like that stuff. But there is something really unworldly special about like being really frustrated and pissed because you put that kid down like 20 minutes ago and he's supposed to take a 2-hour nap and it's been a 20-minute nap, and you walk in and you just see like he's like crying, and then he looks at you, recognizes your face and goes and then your heart just melts into your feet and you're just like, I'm not worried, you're fine, you don't have to, you will just go hang in, we'll go play now. So it's some like, again, some like otherworldly nonsense that I know what love is. I know like what caring about other people is like, but it's new. There's some new shit going on there.
Additional love, like, you know, people in relationships will. This is what I hate about relationships: is people is like constantly, I love you, but you need to change this, or you need to work on this, and that's not unconditional love. Versus, you know, like this is something that you have created, and it doesn't matter how frustrated, pissed off, angry you get, when you look at that tiny little human and you hold them in your arms, your heart just melts. There's nothing else that like.
I feel like when I met Brooke, there was like, you know, there's that we talk as wedding photographers, we talk about this all the time. We talk about like, tell me the story of how you met and how you fell in love, and it's like there's that like spark when you're like, dang, that person across the room, I want to spend a lot of time with that person. That I feel, I don't want to call it manufactured because it's definitely not. It comes from somewhere else. But there is this like difference to the like caring and compassion and like the love that is, it's like it was all, this is going to sound so new agey and ridiculous, but it's like it was always there. I just didn't have like the keys to it. And it doesn't remove something from Brooke. It doesn't like borrow from her love. It's just like this, it's purely biological. That's what it is. It was always there because it's like built into who we are. I've talked ad nauseum about how I think that human beings love dogs because we evolved with them, that we grew up with them as a species. They protected us in our caves and in our camps and allowed us to grow our brains in exchange for like, we'll give them scraps of warm food. So there's something about like that growing together, evolving together, that means that like the love for our fuzzy animals is like locked into our DNA. And how much more powerful is it to have that love locked for like the thing that is the same as you? Like that is, I made that. That is me, as half me. I want me to be good, so I'm gonna take care of that thing. So we can look at it scientifically and say it's all that, but it's also just like some beautiful mushy nonsense.
I think that's really well said.
All right, on that note, I love my baby. I'm gonna go now. I'm gonna go smooch him.
So nice.
Hey guys, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was awesome.
See you guys.
So good to meet you. We'll be in touch.
Bye.
Bye, guys.